One of my cats came up to see what I'm doing.
That's okay. All
Hi,
right, can you
Drew.
still
Hi,
hear
good
me?
morning.
I think
Yeah,
we're
I can hear
good.
you.
Okay, perfect. All right. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. My name is Jacqueline, if you don't know me yet, from jacquelineroof.com. And with me today, I have a very awesome guest, which I'm super excited to hear more about her story. I know a little bit, but today we have Lisa Rogers with us. So I'm excited to have you, Lisa, and we're going to just kind of hear your story. You have a lot to tell. So hopefully maybe we can condense it down to like, I don't know, about a half hour or so. But really kind of want to hear your story and how you have helped to empower other people, other women. Just in general, your story is very inspiring. So I'll kind of hand it over to you, Lisa. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, my name is Lisa Rogers, and I am an addict in recovery.
Awesome.
And I, this is crazy going back, thinking about this stuff, but this is where I came from. And, when you're an addict in recovery, you can't forget where you came from, or you end up right back there.
Right.
And my journey as an addict began actually when I was getting divorced. Me and my ex-husband, my daughter's dad, were going through a divorce, and he had went to Italy and I moved to Florida. First thing I did was hook up with a guy down there, of course. But this guy, he was like poison to me, only I didn't know it at the time. I was with him for about 9 months, and then he started smoking crack.
Wow.
And I wanted to try it. Okay, so I tried it, and addiction is a disease that you either have or you don't. You're born with it. Okay, and I couldn't put it down once I started.
Wow.
I lost everything down in Tampa, Florida, to the point where I was evicted from my apartment. And instead of staying down in Tampa, I know I did the right thing. I took my daughter, who was like, I think she was like 10 or 11 years old at that time, and we came home to Illinois because I figured, okay, change of scenery, change of people, places, things, and I can leave this behind me.
Right.
But the crazy thing is I'm the addict. Okay, I didn't leave that disease nowhere. The disease is me. It
Right.
lives in me, and I brought it to Illinois.
Now,
And
had you had before, I'm just gonna, sorry, Lisa, I don't mean to interject.
okay, go
Like
ahead.
before that, did you have like, I know you said kind of addicts are born with a personality, and I get it. My dad drank a lot. I can understand the addiction personality. I have, some addictions some other ways, not to drugs, thankfully, but did you have kind of that history? I mean, growing up, what kind of set you
Well,
up? What do you think set you up for
I
that, if
mean,
anything?
basically, when I was a teenager, I dabbled around with marijuana,
Hmm.
and drank, when it was illegal to drink, because
Sure.
that was the cool thing to do then.
Yeah.
But I
I
was
hear you.
never really, my life never revolved around any substance.
Hmm.
I could do it or not do it, and you know, but then I was in the army, so I joined the army when I was 19 years old.
Hmm.
So being in the army, it might have just stopped everything that would have progressed. I don't know, but I got retired from the army because I was in a car accident back in 2001. So I was placed on the retired list December 17th, 2002. And then it was just me, and my daughter was born, in 99 in June. And her dad, he was deployed every other year. He
Oh,
was
wow.
infantry, and then he was a forward observer where he'd call for fire, and he was gone every other year. So I was a single parent.
Wow.
And then I took martial arts. I got my first degree black belt. I was one of those that the doctors told me after my car accident. One of the biggest thing I had was a shattered femur, that I would never walk normal again.
Wow.
And I'm one of those that I'm going to prove you wrong. You know me.
Right.
And I
Not
remember
shocking.
my black belt testing. First, me and my daughter tested for our first degree black belts together down in Columbus, Georgia.
Okay.
Because at that time her dad was stationed out of Fort Benning,
Sure.
and he was with Third ID. So we went through Premier Martial Arts and we tested for our first degree black belts. You know, it was 5 years of training, you know, for both of us. A lot of hard work. I'd worked through the pain a lot of the time. But I mean, it was very rewarding. But I stood up at my testing. We had to write an essay and read it to everybody.
Really?
And one of the things I said is, this is for all those doctors out of Grady Memorial Atlanta that said I'd never even walk again. You know?
Good for you. That's awesome.
But I
They
mean,
were just saying it to encourage you they knew that if they told you you wouldn't, that you would.
That's what I would tell a lot of women out there, is just because people say you can't do it, you know, if you set your heart on something, you can accomplish anything.
Yes.
You know, and back to my addiction, in the heat of my addiction up here in Illinois, I was getting in trouble with the law.
Wow.
Okay, I'm not ashamed to admit, you know, I got busted, you know, for felony theft. That had to do with my addiction. Me and my little brother, who was alive at the time, had stole a TV and pawned it so we could both have money for drugs, because both of us were in the same boat.
Wow.
But there's a big difference. I'm the only one of us that's alive. Okay, it's. I feel like everything that I went through, you know, it's like, you know, my brother died so I could live.
Right.
I mean, because he was addicted to opiates. You know, his drug of choice was opiates. And that's one of the number one things that people get addicted to nowadays. You know, it's a nationwide battle with opiates, and opiates will put you 6 feet under the ground. And my brother came and visited me last night from heaven. And, you know, it was awesome, and I was very emotional when I woke up this morning. But
that means there's something to come. There's a reason why he came your way.
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that, you know, that nothing in God's world happens by accident.
Amen. Amen to that.
And so I'm in Illinois, moved back to Illinois fall of 2011. You know, that felony I got was in 2012. And then I just kept going downhill. Sure. I got to a point where I was rock bottom, and I was facing two more felonies out of Iroquois County for stupid stuff, theft, to steal stuff, to trade on the street for drugs. Sure. It's crazy what you do when you're an addict, because you don't think right, because the disease tells you and controls your life. It's like you're living in your own self-made prison, and you got the key, but until you admit that you have a problem, and you have to open yourself up to, you know, some people don't believe in God, and I'm okay with that. As long as you have a higher power, period. Sure.
Whatever that,
you know, you got to open yourself up to a higher power for help. My higher power is, I choose to call God.
Sure.
And I believe it was him that led me to the Kankakee County Veterans Treatment Program.
Awesome.
And I was admitted into Veterans Court in, let's see. Oh my goodness. Yeah. 2014, summer 2014. And it was definitely hard. It was difficult. I think the people on the team would tell you that I was one of the most difficult people that came through the program, because in the beginning, I relapsed. You know, I went to treatment, and then I was doing okay, and then I had relapsed. And then I was put in jail for a week. Or no, first it was a day. And then I did it again, and I was put in jail for a week. And my final stint, I did a total of 38 days in jail in a row.
Wow.
Because they wouldn't let me out until I had a bed in treatment up at the VA at Hines.
Right.
And so I went to treatment twice in 1 year through Veterans Court.
Wow.
But this time, I was determined that this disease was not going to beat me, that this disease was not going to put me 6 feet under like it did my brother in January 20th of 2013.
Right.
And I started listening to everybody on the treatment court team, and I started taking their advice and really, you know, doing what I was supposed to do finally. And after I finished treatment, they made me, I lost everything in Gilman because they made me go live in a halfway house for 90 days. And I was pissed off at them when they first made me do it. But you know what? It was the best thing that could have happened to me because it taught me how to live again.
Right.
When you're an addict, you don't think about basic things like taking showers every day, brushing your teeth, personal hygiene, taking care of yourself, eating right.
And
all that you care about is that drug and getting more of it.
And do you think okay, and that's probably the majority of folks that are on, like I said, I've never been addicted to drugs, nothing like that, but I shouldn't say I love studying about it, but just the mindset behind it. And like you said, is it because you're just always looking for kind of that next drug, that next high?
I'll give you an example is, in the heat of my addiction, and that was when I relapsed, I remember my last run was in September of 2014.
Okay.
And let's say I would have, my drug of choice was crack cocaine. So let's say I would have 10 little rocks on the table to smoke. My mind wouldn't be thinking about those 10 little rocks on the table. I'd be thinking about the 11th and 12th and 13th that I didn't have yet.
Right.
And I'd already be trying to plan and connive and figure out how I was going to get more.
Wow.
Before I was even done with what I had.
Those. Wow.
And that's just a small little picture. I mean, it's relentless. Wow. I describe addiction as like, okay, it's a monkey that's sitting on my shoulder. You can't see it, but it's there. Because addiction is for life. You're not just cured. You have to make a decision and a choice every single day not to pick up.
Sure.
Because once you pick up, if you start feeding that monkey, he's got a bottomless pit for a stomach and he won't stop eating.
Won't stop, right?
Won't stop.
And I know you said that the Veterans Court, they kind of made you go to the halfway house and all of that. What do you think, too, internally for you was that turning point of saying enough is enough? Like, enough of this shit. I'm done with it.
When I was in jail.
Okay.
Jail was my rock bottom. The 38 days in jail, I talked to God every day.
Awesome.
And I finally surrendered myself to God.
Awesome.
I guess you could say I kind of worked the first 3 steps of a 12-step program while I was in jail without even knowing it.
Yeah, right. It's amazing. It's amazing what happens when you can just stop and talk and think through it.
And I'll tell you what, ever since then, I talk to God all the time. I never stop. I say prayers every night and but my prayers are different than they were before. Sometimes I would talk to God when I was an addict, but it was about, oh, get me out of trouble. Don't let me get caught.
Right.
Stuff like that. It was way different.
Don't let them bite me. And these 10 rocks I got.
But now most of the time when I pray, the first thing I do when I pray at night is I thank God for another day clean. Mm-hmm. I'm pushing 3 years, 8 months clean.
Yay! That's awesome.
And you know what? There's really important people that helped me along the way. And one of them was your husband, Michael Roof. Mm-hmm. He really had one of the biggest impacts in my life to help me find my path and stay on it.
Good. And
stick with it.
Yeah, there was a reason.
And I'll be forever grateful to him for everything that he did for me.
It's awesome. Kudos to my hubby. He works hard, so kudos to him.
He's doing good work up there, I'm sure.
Yeah. We're trying to get the vets. I say because I'm his cheerleader behind them for the vets court up here. So if they're open to it, awesome. But with you just personally too, like with all that addiction and how it affected you and your family, especially you and your daughter, like what was that? How did that look for you? And how did you kind of because I think a lot of times as moms, we get so and I can't even imagine mixing in an addiction in there too. We get so down on ourselves and just like, we're never going to get out of this rabbit hole that sometimes I feel like, whether it did
feel like that.
Yeah. Like we just keep digging ourselves down and then we're just like, you know what, forget it. Like I'm done, whatever it might be. How did you kind of get, and what kind of advice, I guess, could you give for us moms, even if there are addicts out there or not addicts, just doing motherhood, because it can be draining at times.
Well, you know what? I was a mom, Jacqueline, but for 5 years of my daughter's life that I can't get back and she can't get back, I wasn't a very good mother.
Right.
and this is hard for me to talk about, I regret, everything that I did, but I mean, I do, but I don't.
Right.
Because everything I've went through has made me who I am. Right. And one thing that my daughter learned from me is that no matter how hard it gets, no matter what the odds are, a very small, minute percentage of people are actually able to stay in recovery from active addiction.
Sure.
And my daughter learned, she saw strength in me. Mm-hmm. She saw me fight. And, there was a point in time that my daughter thought I was never going to quit.
Right.
I had to be clean for a year before she would actually really believe it and before we really started rebuilding our relationship.
Sure.
A lot of parents that are addicts, and I know one right now that, she's early in recovery and she wants her relationship back with her adult daughter right away. And I'm trying to tell her, you have to give your daughter time. She needs her own time, because if you push, you're going to push her away.
Right. Right.
Because the damage is done. You can't do nothing to change it. All you can do is move forward and live every day trying to be a better parent, trying to be a better mom.
Right. And how do you balance that as far as, because like you said, it's kind of, especially if you're trying to repair a relationship with a son or a daughter or someone really close to you, like at what point do you say, okay, I'm going to work on me, and then hopefully they come around and they have to work on them? Like, what is that balance? Like, how did you find that balance of giving her the room?
It was hard. Mm-hmm. That was really, I was working on me in treatment and especially in the halfway house.
Right.
Because I had to fix me. I'm no good to nobody else if I was like the way that I was.
Yes. Yes.
And
you can't fix everyone else. You got to fix yourself.
No, you have to fix yourself first. Yes. And I remember, when I was active in my addiction, I couldn't stand to even look at myself in the mirror. I hated the person staring back at me.
I'm sure. She hated you too.
But I'll tell you what, the first time I came home and had got a house and moved back to Gilman and got my daughter, I remember looking at myself in the mirror and thinking, you're awesome. You're strong. You can do this. And I love me.
That's awesome.
That was the most important thing is, and I was single for a long time.
Right.
You have to learn to love yourself first. You can't possibly love anybody else.
Yes.
If you don't love yourself first.
Yes. Yes. Stop trying to fill that void.
Another one thing I'm concerned about with kids nowadays is a lot of parents get prescriptions for controlled substances, whether it be opiates or benzos, and they don't think about, that they're especially teenagers, but just kids, period. Kids are curious and they hear about things, and parents need to lock their medications up.
Yeah.
They need to keep them out of teenagers' reach.
Yeah.
Because that's one thing. I mean, people are dying every day.
Yeah.
From opiate abuse.
Yeah.
Just like my brother did.
Yeah.
And kids that have their whole lives ahead of them. I mean, it's sad to hear of so many young people dying to the disease of addiction. And I just want everybody to know that there's another way to live. Mm-hmm. You can be happy. You can be clean and be happy and love yourself, and then you have love for everybody else.
That's so awesome.
And then your family, look, when you're an addict, you bring them down with you.
Sure.
It is hard on a family to see someone that they love hurting themselves.
Right.
And they don't understand it, because a lot of people don't understand that it's not a choice. It wasn't a choice. It was what it was to keep doing it. Right. Because that disease controls you, and
right.
You can't stop. I remember so many times telling myself, okay, I'm only going to spend $100 tonight, or I'm just going to do this one bag and that's it. But no, that's gone. You keep finding ways to get more, and you don't stop until you run out of money or things to trade.
Wow.
Terrible. And I remember being gone for days at a time, and at that time, my daughter, I think, was like 13, 14. I mean, she'd be home by herself.
Wow.
And I did that. You do crazy things when you're an addict.
Right. Yeah, you don't think
And, I have to remember everything. One of the biggest things that sticks out of my head from going to meetings and stuff is it says, we will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. Because once we shut the door on it, it can come right back.
It's going to come knocking.
Right? It will come knocking.
It's going to knock down that door is what it's going to do.
So I like to say that my disease has been in remission for almost 3 years, 8 months.
That's awesome.
And I tell everybody, it's not about beating the disease and you're just cured and you're done and it's a sprint. No, it's a lifelong journey. You have to make this decision every single day that you're not going to pick up. You're not going to use.
Right.
You're not going to go back there.
And I think there's so many. Yeah. And I think there's so many people that can relate to that. Maybe it's not something as, as like I said, addicted to crack cocaine or addicted to a substance or opiates or whatever, that it is like every day is a choice for you of how that day is going to go. I've had to learn that over the past year, especially. You do control kind of what you do. You don't have total control, which is great, but it's kind of a balance, but you can make that decision because it's going to look different for everybody. Everyone's going to have their own little, let's call it vice of what they're either addicted to or they're struggling with or whatever. I wish people would just embrace the fact that everyone has something they're struggling with. Like no one's better than anyone else. No one's better. I'm not better than you, Lisa, because I wasn't addicted to crack cocaine. There's other things that I struggle with. Like everyone has their own inner demons that they're always struggling with. And that's what I feel like if we could just learn to kind of embrace that and just kind of be gentle with that. And if I can ask you on the addict side of it, maybe for folks that are experiencing that they're like the family member that's dealing with someone that has an addiction, what is some advice or some encouraging words that you would have as a past addict? Because I do consider you a past addict, even though you're in remission, the addiction is still there. What's some advice that you might have for those folks that are struggling?
Well, the first thing that I would tell them is that it's not their fault. They didn't do this to their loved one, okay? Their loved one has a disease, and they need to understand that it's a disease much like cancer, and it ends in jails, institution, or death.
Right.
Now, here's the important thing. You cannot tell an addict or an alcoholic, that they are an addict or an alcoholic. You can't tell them.
Right.
They have to figure it out for themselves and be able to admit it to themselves.
Right.
Once they can admit, if they come to you and say, hey, I'm addicted to this or I'm an alcoholic or whatever, then you could talk to them about getting help.
Sure.
Okay. The halfway house that I lived in, especially for the male veterans, it was free. The VA paid for it. And then for the women, I think, I paid like $500 a month, for the halfway house. And you have to go through, we went through counseling and meetings and classes and, there's this help available. And even if you're like, say you're a woman and you're in my area and you wanted to go there for help, they will work with you. You can get into there with nothing. The house that I was in is called Grateful House, and it's through the Way Back In. And if you need help and you go see them, they will get you a bed and get you in the halfway house.
Awesome.
And they'll give you a month to get a job and start paying towards rent.
Sure. And why was it, you said because male veterans, they were free through the VA, but why did female veterans have to pay?
I have no idea. They had some kind of program, it was the Way Back In, that the male veterans could go free. I don't know. I didn't really think it was fair, but it's not for me.
Going on? Top of my head, I'm like,
yeah, it's not for me to say. I was happy to be there, and $500 a month, was a small price to pay for what I was receiving. And
good info to know. I might have to look into that a little bit.
Yeah, maybe Michael could look into that.
Like, I have a mission this week, figure that out. That's awesome.
But there's help available.
Yeah,
okay,
that's great.
And here's the thing. Talk to me. Anybody that's watching this or that watches this video, feel free to message me on Facebook. Okay, they can find me through your page.
Yeah.
And I will be happy to talk to anybody, whether they're the addict or whether they're the family.
That's awesome.
Because it's hard to go through. And one thing as a recovering addict is we can only keep what we have by giving it away.
Amen.
I served as a mentor for the Veterans Court for a long time. I have other stuff going on in my life right now that I'm currently not mentoring.
There's another reason though for you. I feel that
there's reasons that
there's another pathway for you.
I can't, right now, but it doesn't mean that I stopped sharing my story or that I stopped helping people. That was just one way that I was able to share my story and help people.
Yes.
But I'm constantly trying to help others. And I live my life just one day at a time. Every night, I thank God for another day clean. When I wake up, I pray to give me the strength and the courage to fight this disease another day and stay clean another day.
I love it.
Now, there's been people in recovery for 25 years that relapse and go back to it.
Sure.
And see, that's the other thing is I would tell people that complacency, if you become complacent in your recovery, complacency is the enemy of recovery. Complacency will lead you down that dark road again, and you'll end up back where you were. But this time, it'll be tenfold worse than it was before.
Wow. That's great. Great advice. Great advice for sure. We'll kind of, if I can, ask you a couple questions that I keep asking all of my guests, if you want to consider yourself a guest. And it's kind of loaded. I try not to give people a heads up. If you've seen some of my videos, you'll know what I'll ask. But what does the word empowerment mean to you?
Empowerment to me means, well, me being powerful, and I set an example for other women to empower them to be better.
I love it.
Encourage them to be better. I want people to emulate me.
That's awesome.
To learn from my mistakes so that they don't make the same ones. I want to empower them to be better than they were yesterday. And each day moving forward.
I love it. Okay. And then what is one thing that I know you said, like when you wake up, you're very grateful when you go to sleep. You're very grateful when you wake up in the morning. What is one thing that you do either daily or weekly or monthly or whatever to keep yourself empowered? What do you do to empower yourself? One thing.
One thing that I do is I journal.
Awesome. I love it.
I love journaling, and I'm currently, I want to write a book.
Yes.
I want to write a book and tell my story and write kind of like an autobiography.
I love it. I love it. I think you will encourage and empower and be an example to a lot of people.
Well, I think that, God has a reason for everything. And I feel like God speaks through me when I'm talking about addiction.
Awesome.
I really do.
I love it. I love every bit of it. I so appreciate you sharing your story. Lisa has tons of information, as she said. Please feel free, if you're watching this and either you're an addict, you're going through addiction, or you have someone maybe that's struggling with addiction, please reach out to her. She's a wealth of information. I know I've learned a ton about addiction from you, Lisa, and just kind of the insight and all of that is so intriguing to me. So I appreciate you sharing your story. I'll link everything. If you want to throw on any links, Lisa, to anything that you know of or resources, please feel free to just inundate this video with tons of resources for people, and they can pick out what they need. But I greatly appreciate you. I think you're doing awesome. Would you say 3 years, 8 months? Woo-woo.
I'm pushing 3 years, 8 months.
That's awesome.
I got, I think, 11 days to get to 8 months.
So inspiring. I love every bit of it. And like I said, just a reminder that we all struggle with our inner demons. And every day, like you said, Lisa, is every day you wake up and you decide what's going to take over your day or you're not going to let take over your day. So I greatly appreciate your story. And I love you with everything. And I
love you too. And you and Michael are great. I miss you guys. And I'm proud of what you're doing.
Thank you.
I love being a part of this. And I'm proud of your husband.
Thank you. We're proud of you too. And stay clean. Stay clean, girl. You got this in the bag by now.
One day at a time.
You're awesome. Thanks for sharing your story, hon. And I will link it.
Thank you.
Feel free to share however you want. All right.
Everybody have a great day.
Thanks. You too, Lisa. Bye-bye.
Bye.